It's time now for a look at what's been making headlines across the country here in a week in France. On Friday, the French Prime Minister survived not one, but two no-confidence motions in Parliament. Both the far left and the far right unhappy over Sébastien Lecornu's forcing through the income portion of a budget bill without a vote by MPs. Last year, Lecornu pledged he wouldn't use Article 49.3 of the French Constitution to bypass a parliamentary vote. But with budget talks seriously deadlocked, he went ahead and did just that, provoking outrage by many in the National Assembly. And now the Prime Minister is set to use it again to ram through the expense part of that state budget, which is likely to trigger yet another no-confidence motion. Shirley Sitbon has more.
To bring down the government, opposition MPs would have had to secure an absolute majority for their no-confidence votes. They failed both times.
In favour, 269. Since there is no absolute majority, the no-confidence vote has not passed.
The motions were brought after the Prime Minister said he would bypass Parliament to pass the annual budget. Sébastien Lecornu had vowed not to go down that road, but he failed to get a majority through negotiations.
When debating doesn't lead to any solution, one must take responsibility. Engaging our government down this road is anything but an easy way out or a shortcut.
The Socialists did not vote to bring down the Prime Minister because he had made a series of concessions to secure their abstention. The Socialists' former allies on the left, who brought one of the motions, France Unbowed, said they betrayed their voters.
You're not useful. You're accomplices. Voters will have to endure Macron's policies for 18 more months.
Leading opinion polls, the National Rally said the government was weakening France, and that rival world powers were using the crisis against the country's interests.
Like Donald Trump, who doesn't miss an opportunity to cruelly mock the end of the presidential mandate, and who is using our weakened position on the world stage to push his interests.
Lawmakers who abstained said that keeping the government in place was the lesser of two evils. Dissolving Parliament again would be costly and give an image of instability. Some MPs also prefer avoiding an early election in which they could lose their seat.
France's municipal elections will be held in mid-March, and for Parisian voters, that means a new mayor for the first time in 12 years after incumbent Anne Hidalgo decided not to run for re-election. It's a high-profile position, and her successor will govern a city of more than 2 million people. Rachida Dati, the current mayor of the 7th arrondissement, is running on the right, while Emmanuel Grégoire is running on the left. At the moment, opinion polls show Grégoire edging out Dati. He's polling at 33% to Dati's 26%. But of course, there are other contenders hoping to make it through to the second round. Pierre-Yves Bournazel, the centrist candidate, Sophia Chikaru from the far left France Unbowed Party, Thierry Mariani from the far-right National Rally, and finally Sarah Nafo, who led Eric Zemmour's presidential bid. The timing of the contest a year before France's next presidential election raises the stakes still further. For more on this, we can bring in Renaud Foucart, a senior lecturer in economics at Lancaster University. Renaud, welcome back to the program. It's always great to have you. Now, before we jump into the Paris mayor's race, I want to talk a little bit about the current budget crisis. As we heard in that report earlier, Lecornu is going to trigger Article 49.3 again. So what sort of political risks does this create for the government?
Somehow is doing that because it's removing political risk. So Lecornu's entire bid has been to say, France is becoming a parliamentary democracy. I'm going to do nothing in terms of cutting debt, but at least I'm going to build a coalition of people who are willing to vote for something. And in the end, what happened, the way he's going to get out of the crisis, I think quite successfully, is because all the other parties told him, well, actually, no, we're not ready to do that. Can you please use this 49.3, in particular the socialists asked for that, but also the right, Les Républicains. Can you please use the 49.3 so that we don't have to put our name as approving a rather unpopular government? So it's going to go through, and it seems like the government is going to survive perhaps until the next presidential election, which, when you see the previous prime minister, is quite an achievement in itself. But France has definitely shown that it's not ready for parliamentary democracy in which you build things with parliaments.
Now, Renaud, as we look at what's been happening with the budget, do you think any of this is going to spill over into voters' minds going into the municipal elections when they're thinking about candidates?
That's definitely, I think, what the parties who don't want to put their name on the budget have in mind, is that they think we're going to local election, we are in front of a very unpopular national government, we want to talk about local issues, but in no way do we want to be accountable to voters for supporting the government. And so no, anyone who is from the Socialist Party, anyone who is from Les Républicains can say, this is not us, the government is not us. And so this government is somehow used as an object of unpopularity. Lecornu is not going to run for president anyway. And so it's a very useful tool for everyone going into the municipal election, that they don't have to be with the government, and almost nobody will be representing the government in those elections.
Now, speaking of those municipal elections, let's take a look at the race for mayor here in Paris. As I had mentioned, the polls show that the socialist candidate, Emmanuel Grégoire, is edging out the conservative candidate, Rachida Dati. Does that surprise you? I mean, especially since Grégoire's running without the backing of his former boss, Anne Hidalgo.
There is an incredible amount of Parisian drama, an incredible amount of fight of egos, but Grégoire comes as the united candidate of almost all of the left, so the Greens, the Communists, and the Socialist Party. He's somehow the continuation candidate. He's completely mad that he's actually personally fighting with Hidalgo, so she's the only one not supporting him. But it's a kind of normal that he's ahead, because he's facing the right and the center, who have two separate candidates, so Dati and Bournazel. So Bournazel, it's not clear at all who will be supported in the second round, but it's quite clear that he's going to go to the second round. And so the big thing to watch for this election is the 10% threshold. So just above the threshold right now in the polls, but just tiny above, there is Sophia Chikirou, who is for France Unbowed, so Jean-Luc Mélenchon. And just slightly below the 10% is Sarah Knafo, so from the far right, Éric Zemmour. And the other one seems to be out of contention. And I think that's what makes this Paris election so special, is that the biggest party in France, Rassemblement National, they are trailing, and they are most likely going to be completely out of the contest. So it's going to be a duel, the left versus the right, Grégoire versus Dati, but everything will happen in the second round and at this 10% threshold, which is the key thing to watch in the election.
Now, Rachida Dati, she's coming into the race with a lot of baggage. She's currently being investigated for corruption. Do you think that will have an impact on voters when they head to the polls?
I'm not sure, because Rachida Dati is a very well-known, highly controversial figure, but she's been there since forever, in Paris, in the government, since the Sarkozy governments. People know exactly who she is, and she's been trailing those corruption stories for quite a long time. So I think it's kind of priced in. She's been campaigning quite hard on two things: security, which is standard center-right story, and the fact that all the big changes that have been pushed by both Delanoë and Hidalgo for the last 25 years, so all the transformation of Paris has cost a lot of money, and so the public debt of Paris has increased quite a lot. So she's running on a campaign of, we're going to be serious with money, we're going to be serious with security, and because there have been 25 years of Socialist Party in charge, there might be appetite for change at some point, because you cannot get forever the government. So that's, I think, the one big strength of Dati. I think voters have priced in the corruption trial. Now, after what happens if she's convicted is a different story.
Now, if you go back and you look at the socialist candidate, Grégoire there, he's putting a little distance between himself and his former boss. So what sort of a policy, can we see continuation with him, or is he going to claim what's been popular and distance himself from what's been not so popular?
Well, I guess that's roughly the idea, is that Paris transformation, the kind of people who would vote for the socialists, the green, etc., see this as a tremendous success. And if you look at Paris, when Delanoë was elected, so in 2001, the working mayor would say, I will take this city which is flooded with cars, and I'm going to make it a livable place for Parisians. This has changed, and this has changed for the better for at least those people. She can be very unpopular, but the people who hate her are not going to vote socialist anyway. But then there is the problem of safety. So Paris, like London and other big cities, are safer in terms of you're much less likely to be killed today than 20 or 50 years ago, but still petty crime is high. Paris has a problem of drugs, and so this is something for which it doesn't want to be accountable. And I mentioned the problem of the debt. At some point, those big changes happen. There are still some big changes that could happen in terms of transforming Paris. It would like to be seen as friendly to them, but it doesn't want to be accountable for the massive debt that at some point will have to be, at the very least, stop increasing.
And Renaud, I just want to ask you one final question. As we were discussing, it's been 12 years with Anne Hidalgo as the socialist mayor, and as you mentioned, not all of her policies were universally beloved. What do you think her legacy will be?
Clearly, if you look at Paris today, people from all around the world who visit are kind of amazed by the transformation that happened. So I think she will stop very proud of that. But then paradoxically, within France, she tried to run for president. She was incredibly unpopular. And I think a lot of people who hate her viscerally. So she will keep a special place in the heart of people around the world who think that you can have a big city where the dominant force is people walking, cycling, where the air is clean and things like that. But she will be forever hated all around France as perhaps a symbol of all over the world, those big cities which lean more to the left, more to the green, in countries that tend to have more older and conservative voters. So forever a divisive figure, but I think clearly forever loved by the people who support those policies.
Renaud, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. That's Renaud Foucart, a senior lecturer in economics at Lancaster University. French President Emmanuel Macron has been in the news for his tough stance against the Trump administration's economic bullying of Europe, but it's his fashion choices that have been garnering even more attention. Macron has been sporting aviator shades at recent public appearances, ostensibly serving to hide an unsightly eye infection. The president's look drawing plenty of comment and boosting sales for the French manufacturer of his sunglasses. Brian Quinn has more.
Making a memorable entrance at Davos, France's top gun, Emmanuel Macron. The president sporting an unusual choice of eyewear, blue-lensed aviator shades. Those shades would soon be on the front pages of newspapers around the world and on the lips of his one-time bromance partner, one Donald J. Trump.
Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. What the hell happened?
What happened, according to the president's office, is a burst blood vessel in Macron's right eye, a benign, if somewhat unsightly, condition. Macron's maverick style in eyewear, meanwhile, is much more than benign for its manufacturer. It's been goosing sales. Henri Julien is a luxury eyewear company based in the Jura region of eastern France. Its Pacific S01 model worn by Macron costs €659. Recently bought out by Italy's iVision tech group following financial difficulties, the company says Macron's tacit endorsement has led to an overwhelming rush in orders.
We were flooded with calls and requests on the website. The site crashed.
France's eyewear market brought in nearly €9 billion in revenues last year. It's expected to grow to more than $14 billion by the end of the decade. The company says it offered the president his shades as a gift, but that he insisted on paying and making sure that they were indeed made in France.